Kaiju number 8 roars to life with Yokohama under siege by a rampaging kaiju, sending citizens running for cover like it's a Black Friday sale, as the emergency kaiju alert system blares, guiding them to refuge. Meanwhile, military officials strategize, debating the kaiju's path and size. Helicopters swoop in, armed to the teeth, attempting to grab the kaiju's attention with a barrage of firepower. Amidst the chaos, locals chatter about the Defense Corps' 3rd Division, gearing up to take down the beast. Soon, Mina Ishiro and her squad swoop in, kicking monster but like it's just another day at the office. Meanwhile, Kafka Hibino and his crew observe the aftermath from a safe distance, gearing up for the daunting task of cleanup duty. As they get to work, Kafka muses on the lack of recognition for their efforts compared to the glory showered on the 3rd Division. But things take a dangerous turn when a careless mistake leads to a teammate getting doused in acidic kaiju blood. Kafka rushes to his aid, reflecting on the harsh realities of their job as they face down the gruesome aftermath of battle. Later, Kafka broods over his less-than-glamorous duties, feeling the sting of unappreciated labor as he watches Mina's heroic exploits on the news. A flashback to his youth with Mina reminds him of their shared dreams of ridding the world of kaiju. But reality hits hard as he grapples with the harsh truth of his current situation. As Kafka contemplates his place in the world, a sense of disillusionment settles in, leaving him questioning the value of his work and the path he's chosen. But amidst the uncertainty, the call to duty beckons once more, as Kafka braces himself for another day of facing monsters, both literal and figurative. Kafka gathers with his co-workers in the morning, where he's introduced to Reno Ichikawa, an aspiring recruit for the defense force. Toku, who brought Reno to Kafka, mentions Kafka's similar ambitions but eventual resignation. Reno, undeterred, confronts Kafka, eager to learn his reasons for quitting. Kafka opens up about his past struggles, but Reno remains determined to pursue his dream, heading off to prepare for the day. Later, at the kaiju cleanup site, duties are assigned, and Kafka and Reno find themselves tasked with the less-than-glamorous job of handling intestines. Despite Kafka's complaints, he begrudgingly accepts the assignment, prompting reflections from their leader on Kafka's untapped potential for greatness. After a hard day's work, Kafka and Reno unwind at a nearby park, where Kafka offers Reno some tools to cope with the job's aftermath. As their co-workers bid farewell and head home, Kafka reflects on completing their duty, feeling a sense of accomplishment, but their respite is short-lived when a Yoju appears, threatening Reno's safety. In a heart-pounding moment, Kafka springs into action, saving Reno from the monster's clutches. The two engage in a thrilling chase, culminating in Kafka facing off against the Yoju alone. Just when all seems lost, Kafka flashes back to his childhood with Mina, remembering their shared determination to combat kaiju threats. Back in the present, Kafka finds himself overpowered by the Yoju until Reno's timely intervention. With renewed determination, Kafka faces his fears head-on, joined by Reno and a mysterious white tiger, ready to take on whatever challenges lie ahead. As the Yoju meets its end with a barrage of gunshots, Kafka turns to see Mina and her comrades nearby. Mina swiftly assigns Igarashi and Takaraji to ensure Kafka and Reno's safety, while she leads the team in scouting for more Yoju. Later, at the hospital, Reno expresses his gratitude to Kafka for saving him, complimenting Kafka's bravery in their encounter with the Yoju, encouraged by Reno's words. Kafka resolves to reapply to the Defense Corps, determined to make a difference. But their moment of respite is interrupted when a bug-like kaiju unexpectedly appears before Kafka and enters his mouth, plunging Kafka into a strange experience. Reno, startled by Kafka's transformation, urges him to leave the hospital immediately. Amidst the chaos, a flashback transports us to a poignant moment between Kafka and Mina, where Kafka shares his insights on battling kaiju. Mina, vulnerable yet determined, confides her fears to Kafka, who promises to stand by her side no matter what. Mina wastes no time briefing her 3rd Division comrades on the urgent mission to take down the kaiju spotted at a hospital. The news spreads like wildfire across Yokohama, setting off alarms and triggering panic among the populace. Meanwhile, Kafka, Reno, and their unlikely companion, the old man, find themselves in a sticky situation as Kafka tries, unsuccessfully, to convince the old man that he's not a rampaging monster. With no time to spare, Kafka and Reno make a hasty retreat from the hospital to prevent any further chaos. As they flee towards safety, Reno grapples with the bizarre events unfolding around Kafka, questioning whether his friend could truly be the kaiju they're fleeing from. Kafka, meanwhile, finds himself grappling with some unexpected bodily changes, leading to some hilariously awkward moments between the two friends. Despite the confusion, Kafka and Reno press on towards an evacuation area, where they're met with a grim realization: the kaiju threat is far from over. Kafka senses a new threat looming nearby, another kaiju on the prowl, with Mina and her team hot on its trail. Kafka and Reno must decide whether to stand their ground or seek refuge and leave the fighting to the experts. As tensions reach a boiling point, the Yoju makes its move, threatening the lives of innocent bystanders. Thankfully, Kafka arrives and sends the creature flying across the city. With Kafka and Reno's assistance, the child and her mother are safely rescued, although the child is understandably frightened by Kafka's kaiju-like appearance. The Yoju makes a dramatic return, but Kafka swiftly dispatches it with a powerful punch, saving the day once again. As he approaches the little girl and her mother, Kafka assures them that help is on the way, but he'll be gone in a flash. Before he leaves, the grateful girl thanks him, triggering a poignant flashback to Kafka's past with Mina. Meanwhile, Reno urges Kafka to leave, but Kafka expresses his desire to stand by Mina's side. Moments later, Mina and her team arrive, offering reassurance to the frightened civilians. Mina vows to eradicate every kaiju, but the little girl's innocent plea not to harm good kaiju leaves her puzzled. Back at Kafka's workplace, his co-workers watch a news broadcast revealing the Defense Force's new codename for Kafka's kaiju form, Kaiju number 8. Reno enters the room, reflecting on Kafka's predicament. Despite 3 months passing since the incident, Kafka remains the first kaiju to evade capture by the Defense Force. Suddenly, Reno receives mail notifying him of passing the first round of the Anti-Kaiju Defense Force selection tests. Excited and nervous, Reno heads off, leaving Kafka's co-workers to ponder his potential future as a Defense Force member. Later, Reno finds Kafka sitting atop a defeated kaiju, delivering the news of his test success. However, Reno notices Kafka's kaiju form and scolds him for his recklessness. Apologizing, Kafka explains that he's still adjusting to his newfound powers, despite the passage of time. As a brief flashback offers a glimpse into Kafka and Reno's return to the hospital, the present-day reality sinks in. Kafka faces a challenging road ahead as he grapples with his dual identity. Torn between his human and kaiju selves, Kafka casually mentions to Reno that he's a pro at acing the first round but often stumbles in the second, despite Reno's concerns about Kafka's powers causing complications. Kafka assures him he'll still take the exam. However, Reno declares himself Kafka's rival, and makes it clear he won't be offering much assistance with Kafka's kaiju-related challenges. Fast forward 10 days, and Kafka and the gang arrive at the West Tokyo venue. Kafka gives Reno some intel about the nearby base when suddenly, they encounter a confident girl who requests Kafka to move his vehicle so she can park hers in his spot. Kafka politely declines, but the girl, named Kikoru Shinomiya, isn't one to take no for an answer. With a flick of her suit's power, she effortlessly relocates Kafka's car, leaving him and Reno dumbfounded. Introducing herself as Kikoru, she casually mentions her love for kaiju extermination, sending a chill down Kafka's spine. Kikoru's cryptic comment about Kafka smelling like a kaiju leaves him intrigued and slightly unnerved. Reno jumps in with a quick distraction, giving Kafka the chance to shuffle his vehicle to a new parking spot. Kikoru, still intrigued by Kafka's unexpected strength, confidently boasts about her plans to outshine him in the second phase of the anti-kaiju selection test. We then follow Kafka as he tackles the fitness test portion of the second phase. A flashback between Kafka and Reno sheds light on the selection test structure, revealing Kafka's determination to excel in the fitness segment. However, his performance falls short, especially when compared to Kikoru's impressive display. With a teasing jab, Kikoru leaves Kafka in the dust, stirring up his insecurities. Regrouping with Reno, Kafka observes the competition, with Kikoru standing out as the one to beat. Despite his doubts, Kafka finds solace in Reno's reassurance and gears up for the next phase. where his expertise in kaiju cleanup may give him an edge. As the participants arrive at the next test site, they're greeted by Hoshina, the 3rd Division Vice Captain, who drops a bombshell. They must capture and exterminate the kaiju lurking in the area. Kafka and Reno are left dumbfounded by the daunting task ahead. Guided to a new area, the participants are outfitted in Defense Force kaiju combat suits, enhancing their combat abilities. Hoshina explains how these suits will boost their power against the test's kaiju inhabitants, with Kikoru boasting the highest combat prowess while Kafka finds himself at the bottom of the ranks. With the odds stacked against him, Kafka braces himself for the ultimate challenge ahead. Hoshina guides everyone to the testing grounds, providing a detailed briefing on the battlefield, the various monsters present, and the objectives they must achieve using the provided weapons and suits. With the instructions given, the test commences. Kikoru wastes no time in demonstrating her exceptional marksmanship and battlefield prowess. Her effortless skill draws admiration and envy alike from her fellow participants, setting a high bar for the rest to follow. Meanwhile, amidst the chaos of battle, Kafka and Reno find a moment to exchange a brief discussion about Kafka's combat capabilities. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted by Hoshina, who announces the arrival of a formidable presence overseeing the proceedings, none other than Mina herself. With their lack of raw combat power evident, Kafka and Reno find themselves at a disadvantage. However, Kafka proposes a strategic shift in focus, advocating for a role of support and coordination rather than direct confrontation. He believes that by leveraging their strengths in teamwork and strategy, they can make a meaningful impact and earn the respect of those overseeing the test. With determination burning in their hearts, Kafka and Reno set out to prove that true strength lies not just in raw power, but in unity, resourcefulness, and the unwavering resolve to face any challenge head-on. Kafka and Reno cautiously approach their target, taking cover behind walls to avoid detection. Upon closer inspection, Kafka recognizes the Yoju species from his past work. Strategizing quickly, Kafka tosses a stun grenade towards the creature's eyes, explaining his plan to Reno. He then directs the other participants to aim for the monster's weak spot, its stomach. With coordinated effort, they target the creature's vulnerable area, ultimately defeating it. Grateful for Kafka's leadership, the others express their appreciation before Kafka and Reno make a swift exit. As they flee, Kafka ponders the possibility of completing the test without resorting to his kaiju abilities. However, their respite is short-lived as another Yoju emerges, launching an attack on Kafka. Concerned for his well-being, a 3rd Division worker assesses Kafka's condition, fearing he may be too injured to continue. Just as hope seems lost, Kikoru intervenes, saving Kafka from certain failure. Despite her intervention, Kikoru can't resist a final jab at Kafka before departing. Determined to persevere, Kafka struggles to rise, grappling with the severity of his injuries. With Hoshina advising him to quit, Kafka faces a critical decision, yet, fueled by sheer determination, he defies the odds, his resolve strengthening as he refuses to concede defeat. His unwavering resolve shining through even in the darkest of moments. With Kafka defiantly standing his ground against Hoshina's doubts, with Reno by his side, Kafka's determination shines through as he refuses to back down, his resolve unwavering in the face of adversity. With a newfound sense of purpose, Kafka urges Reno to follow Kikoru, recognizing the opportunity to lend their support to her efforts, as Kafka clambers onto Reno's shoulders. Their unorthodox team strategy draws laughter from Hoshina, who dismisses their approach as foolish. Undeterred, Kafka and Reno press on, their sights set on aiding Kikoru in her battle against the encroaching monsters. Meanwhile, Kikoru proves her mettle on the battlefield, dispatching her foes with effortless grace and precision. Her skill and prowess do not go unnoticed, earning praise from the exam personnel overseeing the trial. With the stage cleared and the exam concluded, medics are dispatched to tend to the wounded participants, their safety ensured in the aftermath of the intense battle. Meanwhile, in the observation room, Mina and Hoshina commend Kikoru's remarkable skills. Adding to the intrigue, it's revealed that Kikoru is the daughter of the Defense Force General Director. As she strives to impress her father on the battlefield, a sudden assault from a lone monster catches her off guard. Simultaneously, Kafka and his companions observe the astonishing resurrection of defeated kaiju and Yoju nearby. Despite the unexpected attack, Kikoru maintains her resolve to fight. However, her encounter takes a bizarre turn when the kaiju begins speaking, leaving Kikoru bewildered. This chatty adversary plans to pit his Yoju allies against her once more, launching strange projectiles that render her immobile. As the exam personnel alerts Mina and Hoshina to the unusual events unfolding, Mina swiftly orders the activation of recovery shields, dispatches drones to the testing grounds, and requests a live camera feed. Additionally, she instructs Hoshina to accompany her to the scene. Meanwhile, a directive echoes across the testing grounds, urging all examinees to seek refuge immediately. Despite this, Kikoru defies the order and engages one of the charged-up Hanju in battle. As the Hanju relentlessly presses forward, it hurls Kikoru against the wall, leaving her injured. Simultaneously, a flashback unfolds, transporting us to a moment where Kikoru's friend Risa excitedly shares news of her acceptance to Tokyo Neutralization Middle School's top tier. Amidst parental praise, Kikoru stands alone, overhearing accolades showered upon other children. Her butler interrupts, assuring her of her father's imminent return and his anticipated satisfaction with her achievements. However, her father's response to her news is far from celebratory. He admonishes her to aim higher and become a paragon of perfection for the sake of humanity and her late mother. Back in the present, Kikoru valiantly attempts to fend off the Hanju, but with each blow, it regenerates, growing stronger. Concern mounts for Mina and Hoshina, fearing they won't reach her in time. Just as the Hanju is poised to deliver a fatal blow, Kafka arrives, commending Kikoru for her resilience before transforming into his kaiju form. Elsewhere, other examinees battle Yoju and endeavor to evacuate. A flashback featuring Reno and Kafka ensues, where news of the Hanju's regeneration prompts Reno's concern for Kafka's safety. Kafka, now in kaiju form, urges Kikoru to keep his ability a secret from the defense force and promises to divulge more later. Amidst the chaos, exam personnel update Hoshina and Mina on the escalating fortitude levels, indicating the presence of an exceptionally powerful kaiju. With a single decisive blow, Kafka dispatches the Hanju, pleading for it to remain defeated as its remains plummet to the ground. Kafka reunites with Kikoru, reverting slightly to his human form as he commends her bravery but warns against risking herself further. Reno soon arrives, echoing Kafka's sentiments, sparking a heated debate between the two. Overwhelmed, Kikoru faints. Later, Mina, Hoshina, and Defense Force troops arrive to inspect the Hanju's remains. Information from exam personnel reveals that Reno, Kafka, and Kikoru are being attended to in the operation room. As Mina and Hoshina ponder the cause of the crisis, Mina directs her allies to summon the investigation and disposal unit to the testing site. She and Hoshina resolve to confront the remaining monsters themselves. In a quiet moment, Reno and Kafka discuss their recent encounters with kaiju in one of the operation rooms. Unbeknownst to them, Mina listens in from a distance. In a sudden encounter, Mina interrupts Kafka and Reno in their quarters, expressing gratitude for their assistance in Kikoru's recovery. Just as Kafka hesitates to stop Mina from leaving, he holds himself back, resolving to address her properly once he attains officer status. Later, Hoshina pays a visit to Kikoru, who mistakenly attributes the defeat of the Hanju to herself instead of Kafka. Meanwhile, the chatty kaiju, now in human form, attempts to contact his ally via cell phone. Their conversation reveals the chatty kaiju's whereabouts. Subsequently, the human form of the kaiju exits a restroom and encounters a group of kaiju cleaners. Kafka finds himself drowning in anxiety, casting blame on Reno for convincing him to give it another shot. With bated breath, they receive their results, knowing it's their final chance to stand alongside Mina. As Kafka anxiously tears open the envelope, hoping for a glimmer of hope, we cut to the scene where Haruchi confidently greets Kaguraji, already assured of his success. Haruchi, observing the passing candidates, notices Kafka's absence, sparking curiosity among them. Kikoru's entrance is met with a flourish of victory, relishing her triumph in the test. Meanwhile, Haruchi and Kaguraji find themselves locked in a silent battle for second place. Despite Kaguraji's vocal confidence in his physical prowess, Haruchi remains quietly determined to surpass him. In another corner, Reno's encounter with a successful candidate, Furuhashi, sparks questions about Kafka's whereabouts. As Mina takes the stage and announces, "Kikoru, come to the stage," Kikoru steps forward onto the stage, and Mina hands her the class roster. Grateful for Kikoru's assistance post-exam, she acknowledges her help. She is grateful and guilty at the same time for receiving all the praise for killing the kaiju, yet it was Kafka who killed the kaiju. As she ponders on that, Kafka's sudden appearance in his Defense Force uniform sends ripples of surprise through the room. In a flashback, Hoshina announces that Kafka has failed the exam, but he praises Kafka's unique strengths, particularly his strategic acumen during the kaiju extermination. Because of this, Kafka will be joining them, but he is still not a full officer. And then asked Mina to give a speech for the new officers, as she praises the new students for completing the exam successfully and motivates them for their future encounters. Touched by Mina's speech, Kafka impulsively pledges his support, earning both praise and punishment in the same breath. Later, in a moment of vulnerability, Kafka confides in Kikoru about his kaiju transformation, fearing the potential repercussions within the defense force. Reluctantly, he pleads for her silence, knowing the risks involved. Meanwhile, amidst rigorous training exercises, interpersonal rivalries surface, driving each recruit to push their limit. Meanwhile, Kafka tirelessly strives for improvement. Later, Hoshina meets Kafka and cautions him against getting too close to his comrades, wary of the potential consequences. With the unexpected emergence of a kaiju emergency, Kafka embarks on his maiden mission as Mina requests a status update on the Sagamihara location from Okanaji. Okanaji reported that the regular defense force had successfully evacuated the area around the incident. Status reports revealed that the kaiju had grown larger and entered its breeding phase. Immediate action was necessary to prevent a swarm of smaller kaiju from being released. Given the location's proximity, Mina decided the best course of action was to eliminate the primary kaiju before it could breed. She directed the team to set up sniper positions along the highway to handle the smaller kaiju. With the strategy laid out, she dismissed the team, and they all moved out to engage in battle. In the back of the truck, Hoshino checked in with the team, asking if they were ready for this real coup extermination mission. Kikoru was anxious about the Kafka sitting across from her, who was actually a powerful kaiju. She was covering for him and hoped he wouldn't let her down. Suddenly, Kafka feels nauseous and throws up inside the truck. After an unpleasant ride, they reached their station, and Kafka finally got a look at the kaiju they needed to take down. Hoshina explained the plan. Mina would handle the giant kaiju in the center, while the newbie team would tackle the newly spawned kaiju, ensuring none escaped. Being the least experienced, they were assigned to the rear, making their success vital to the mission's outcome. Hoshina asked if there were any questions, but everyone seemed to grasp the plan perfectly. He then ordered them to demonstrate their skills on the battlefield. Meanwhile, the regular defense force reported to Okanaji that all civilians had been evacuated from the kaiju site and its surrounding areas. Okanaji conveyed this to the platoon and mentioned that Mina would reach her sniping position in 8 minutes. Upon receiving a report of a small kaiju nearby, the team leaped off the roof to engage, except for Kafka, who climbed down. Meanwhile, Mina arrived at her sniping position. Okanaji instructed the defense force to lure the giant kaiju towards her. The defense force launched missiles at the kaiju, successfully capturing its attention. On the ground, Kafka and the others prepared for the incoming kaiju. Kafka felt unusually calm, attributing it to the strength his suit provided. Feeling confident, he stepped forward but was swiftly knocked into a trash bag by the first kaiju that struck him. An older defense force member was annoyed about having to babysit the newbies, but Kikoru quickly proved herself by obliterating the first wave of kaiju that the professionals had struggled with. Kafka praised her, making her blush since she wasn't accustomed to receiving compliments. Meanwhile, Reno's team excels in their battles against their respective Yoju enemies. Reno's clever round-switch strategy impresses his rival, Iharu. Despite this, Reno insists he isn't strong enough yet and wants to improve so Kafka doesn't have to rely on transforming. At the same time, Sector J's recruits are performing admirably against the Yoju. The seasoned troops, including Sector J's leader Nakanashima, are impressed by the recruits' actions. Nakanashima notes that several recruits have a certain charm but believes it's the veterans' influence that is motivating the recruits to excel. Meanwhile, Okanaji updates everyone on the progress of various sectors, leaving Kafka feeling bewildered and upset about his contributions. Kafka heads to one of the defeated Yoju and locates its core. He contacts Hoshina and relays details about the Yoju's core. He suggests that the officers should attack the Yoju from the sides and insists on destroying every Yoju's reproductive organs to prevent further spawning. Hoshina praises Kafka and instructs Okanaji to share Kafka's intel with everyone. Kafka tells Hoshina that he will focus on eradicating the cores of the defeated Yoju. Meanwhile, Mina fires her large weapon at the Hanju. Mina defeats the Hanju in 3 shots, impressing everyone on the battlefield. However, Mina fires another round, even though the Hanju had already plummeted to the ground. Hoshina approaches Kafka, showcasing his exceptional close-range combat skills by swiftly slaying a Yoju. Hoshina then shares his family's esteemed history of kaiju slaying and explains that the captain and vice-captain of the defense corps receive weapons tailored to their fighting styles. He tells Kafka to prepare for battle again. Although the Hanju has been defeated, many Yoju start spawning from its body. Okanaji mentions that the recruits are tired, but Hoshina argues that this challenge will push them to greater heights if they succeed. Hoshina believes that Reno and Kikoru have the potential to become captains one day. Meanwhile, Iharu and Reno encounter a random monster sweeper incorporated worker and question his presence on the battlefield. The worker reveals that he loaded the reproductive organs inside most of the Yoju but is furious that someone destroyed them. He turns to Iharu and Reno. The episode concludes with the worker demanding that they tell him who in the defense force discovered the truth about his scheme. As the ordinary man stands up and points his finger at Iharu, who is too slow to react, and he is shot in the chest. Luckily, he avoids a fatal wound. Ichikawa steps in, trying to stabilize Iharu using his suit. They quickly realize that their opponent is no ordinary human but Kaiju number 9, the same Kaiju that attacked during the exam and easily overpowered Kikoru. Kaiju number 9, expressing disappointment with his failed implants, decides he won't leave empty-handed and aims to take a defense force officer as a sample. Ichikawa attempts to call for backup, but their communications are blocked. Number 9 has created a signal-free zone, preventing any distress calls. Number 9 targets Ichikawa, who, despite his efforts, is hit and gets injured. Realizing that Ichikawa can anticipate his attacks, Number 9 adjusts his strategy. Ichikawa remembers Kikoru's advice. Number 9's finger bullets can be predicted by closely watching his fingers. Armed with this knowledge, Ichikawa dodges the bullets completely. As Iharu dodges another quick attack, Ichikawa returns fire, buying Iharu time to escape. Though reluctant, Iharu hobbles away, understanding the severity of the situation. Determined to emulate Kafka's heroism, Ichikawa charges at Number 9 to give Iharu more time. Meanwhile, Iharu reflects on his recent struggles, feeling surpassed by Ichikawa. Hoshina had once mentioned that officers often plateau in their abilities but can overcome this with effort. Iharu, stuck at 20% combat ability for weeks, feels frustrated and defeated. Ichikawa fights bravely but Number 9, exploiting Ichikawa's limited knowledge, fires new bullets. Just as Ichikawa seems doomed, Iharu returns, determined to save his friend despite his injuries. Number 9 targets Iharu, but Iharu, focusing intensely, dodges the attack and hits 9 with conductor bullets, giving Ichikawa an opening. Ichikawa empties his magazine into 9, only to find 9 protected by a wall of corpses. Now out of bullets, Ichikawa is vulnerable and gets incapacitated by Number 9's finger bullets. Outside the barrier, Hoshina notes the loss of communication with Ichikawa and Iharu, raising concerns. Kafka, realizing Number 9 is near, moves to intervene. Despite his injuries, Ichikawa refuses to give up. 9, impressed by Ichikawa's resilience, plans to incapacitate him without killing him. As 9 turns to finish Iharu, Kafka arrives, decapitating 9 with a single punch. Kafka apologizes for being late, but Ichikawa blames his own weakness. 9 regenerates and attacks again, but Kafka stands firm, enraged by the suffering 9 has caused his friends. Blocking 9's bullets, Kafka unleashes a relentless barrage of punches, severely damaging 9 and exposing his core. Just as Kafka is about to deliver the final blow, Defense Force soldiers arrive, and 9 uses the distraction to escape. 9 vows to kill Kafka next time, but Kafka is determined to end 9's threat. 9 fires at the defense force officers, forcing Kafka to protect them and allowing 9 to disintegrate and escape. Kafka creates a diversion and retreats, satisfied with saving Ichikawa and Iharu. However, Vice Captain Hoshina appears, assuming Kafka harmed Ichikawa and Iharu. Hoshina, recalling his expertise in fighting smaller kaiju, attacks Kafka. Serious and powerful, Hoshina requests to unleash his full combat power of 92%, intent on eliminating Kaiju number 8. As Hoshina requests permission to remove the limiter on his suit, unleashing his full combat power of 92. With deadly intent, he aims to eliminate Kafka, who has transformed into Kaiju number 8. Kafka, conflicted and not wanting to harm Hoshina, hesitates to engage fully. However, Hoshina, undeterred by Kafka's internal struggle, strikes swiftly, leaving Kafka severely wounded. Kafka quickly realizes that unless he takes this battle seriously, he won't survive. Hoshina's speed far outmatches Kafka's, despite Kafka's superior strength. The realization hits Kafka hard. Hoshina might not be stronger, but his speed and precision make him a formidable opponent. Hoshina's movements are almost superhuman, darting around with such velocity that Kafka struggles to track his attacks. Another swift slash from Hoshina cuts deep into Kafka's body, exposing his core. Kafka, desperate to understand the nature of Hoshina's attacks, finds a place to stand his ground and regenerate. This is the first time Kafka has had to regenerate such significant damage, and he quickly learns that the process drains his stamina drastically. Hoshina remains relentless, his surprise evident as he attacks with full power, yet the kaiju holds him off. This revelation suggests that Kafka possesses at least a fortitude level of 8. However, the way Kafka fights is unlike any kaiju Hoshina has encountered. Despite this, Hoshina is confident that if he can ensure Kafka cannot counter his next attack, he will prevail. Charging his blades to full power, Hoshina releases an energy wave aimed directly at Kafka. Realizing the imminent danger, Kafka attempts to evade but is unable to completely escape, resulting in his leg being severed. The brief moment of immobility caused by the loss of his leg gives Hoshina the opportunity to close in for the kill. He strikes at Kafka's core, only to be shocked when Kafka's body grows a set of teeth, stopping the blade from penetrating his core. Charging up one of his powerful punches, Kafka aims for the ground instead of Hoshina, creating a massive shockwave that kicks up dust and obscures Hoshina's vision. Kafka vanishes into the night. Disappointed in himself for failing to subjugate Kaiju number 8, Hoshina calls Mina on the radio to report the situation. Meanwhile, Kikoru is deep in thought about Kafka. Despite Kafka saving her during the exam, she grapples with the reality of him being a kaiju. Kafka, having returned to his human form, approaches Kikoru. He expresses concern for Ichikawa and Aru, who are seriously injured. Kikoru reassures him that they are under the care of the defense force and will recover quickly with the advanced medical technology. As the team wraps up their mission, Hoshina remains troubled by his encounter with Kaiju number 8. Mina, noticing his unusual distress, captures the moment with a picture, knowing how rare it is to see him upset. Hoshina reflects on the fight, noting that despite its power, Kaiju number 8 fought in a way that seemed almost human, deliberately avoiding fatal blows. Mina reminds him regardless of Kaiju's behavior, their duty is to neutralize any Kaiju threat. Elsewhere, Kaiju number 9, in human form, encounters a man on the road. The man, irritated, demands that he move out of the way. Instead, Kaiju number 9 transforms, terrifying the man before devouring him. Assuming the man's identity, Kaiju number 9 drives away, planning his next move to kill Kafka. At the hospital, Ichikawa awakens to find Kafka and Kikoru by his side. They are relieved to see him awake, and Ichikawa thanks Kafka for saving him. However, Aru, who is also in the room, questions why Kafka is receiving thanks when it was Kaiju number 8 who saved them. Kikoru quickly fabricates a story, attributing Ichikawa's gratitude to Kafka's identification of the spores on the mushroom kaiju, which was crucial in their battle. Aru accepts this explanation, though he remains curious about the kaiju's motives. Upon their discharge, the team celebrates their first successful mission with a surprise party. The highlight is the finest A5 Wagyu beef, courtesy of Isomo, heir to Japan's leading anti-kaiju technology company. Hoshina observes the team's interactions, noting their arguments as they discuss the mission, seeing it as a valuable learning experience for future improvements. During the event, Isomo has a private conversation with the chef, revealing strained family relations. Kaguri, overhearing, respects their privacy and continues to the bathroom. Later, Hoshina commends Kafka for his contributions, promoting him to a full member of the defense force. Kafka, under Mina's watchful eye, accepts the promotion with pride but remains cautious. Late at night, Kafka finds Hoshina training rigorously. Hoshina explains his resolve to defeat Kaiju number 8, reflecting on his initial mistake of underestimating the enemy. As Hoshina heads back to the main office, a new threat looms, a humanoid kaiju preparing an attack with an aerial fleet. Hoshina recalls his intense encounter with Kaiju number 8, the battle etched vividly in his mind. The experience was unsettlingly similar to fighting a human, something Hoshina found deeply disturbing. Adding to the unease is the memory of Kaiju number 9, which not only speaks but can disguise itself as a human. Meanwhile, Kafka stands on the roof of the Defense Force base, reflecting on his journey so far. He considers the immense progress he has made, transforming from a cleanup crew member to a crucial asset in humanity's fight against the kaiju. Yet, he is acutely aware of the long road ahead and the hard work still required to achieve his goals. Just as he begins to head inside, something catches his eye: lights in the night sky, moving rapidly toward the base. The lights crash into the base with explosive force, causing extensive damage. Alarms blare, and the base is thrown into chaos. Vice Captain Hoshina quickly contacts the control room for a status update. Koryo Koji, stationed at the control panel, reports that the base is under attack by numerous kaiju, each with a fortitude rating above 6. Hoshina, realizing the gravity of the situation, immediately suits up and takes command in Captain Mina Ashiro's absence. He issues urgent orders to all officers, stressing the importance of containing the kaiju to prevent them from reaching the city and causing widespread devastation. On the roof, Kafka surveys the unfolding chaos below. He identifies the attacking creatures as Wyvern-type kaiju, notorious for their destructive capabilities. Kafka radios Hoshina, pointing out that Wyvern Kaiju are typically solitary monsters. For dozens of them to attack simultaneously suggests the presence of a powerful and intelligent leader orchestrating the assault. Just then, Hoshina catches sight of the leader in question, a formidable Red Kaiju, who brazenly declares its intent to defeat him. The Red Kaiju's fortitude is measured at 8.3, making it an exceptionally dangerous opponent. Hoshina orders his platoon leaders to manage the other kaiju while he engages the Red Kaiju directly. The Red Kaiju tests Hoshina with a series of powerful attacks, which Hoshina narrowly dodges. The Red Kaiju then signals a full-scale assault on the base, rallying the other kaiju into a frenzy. The officers, including Iharu Furuhashi and Reno Ichikawa, struggle against the Wyvern's devastating attacks. Despite their efforts, they are forced to retreat. The leader orders a switch to oscillator rounds to penetrate the kaiju's tough exteriors. At this critical moment, Kafka intervenes over the radio, advising them to target the Wyvern's vulnerable backs, where their weak spots are located. This new tactic requires precision and coordination but offers a glimmer of hope. With Kafka's strategy, Kaguri and Izumo team up to take one down. Kaguri fires from the front to draw its attention, while Izumo sneaks up behind the Wyvern and prepares to fire. However, another Wyvern appears out of nowhere, ruining Izumo's shot. This is the first time he has seen the kaiju working together, making it difficult to get a clear shot from the back. Kikoru suggests a more direct approach, wielding her new custom battle axe. She recalls her surprise when Vice Captain Hoshina and Captain Ashiro presented her with the weapon, a privilege typically reserved for captains. The axe, designed specifically for her, features a shockwave mechanism that amplifies her strikes, allowing her to penetrate even the toughest kaiju armor. Another kaiju attacks from the sky, threatening her, but Reno arrives and saves Kikoru by blasting the kaiju with freeze rounds and forcing it to the ground. Meanwhile, Hoshina remains locked in a fierce battle with the Red Kaiju. Despite the kaiju's immense strength and enthusiasm for the fight, Hoshina uses his keen combat instincts to exploit gaps in its armor, ultimately exposing its core. Yet, the Red Kaiju regenerates and transforms into an even more powerful form, its fortitude rising to 9. It now poses an even greater threat. Back at the base, Kafka and Reno coordinate the evacuation of injured personnel. Kafka's partial transformation allows him to move with incredible speed, saving a girl from a kaiju. He marvels at the level of teamwork displayed by his fellow officers, their collective effort turning the tide of the battle. Suddenly, Kafka's kaiju detection ability alerts him to a new threat. He senses something amiss and knows that the situation is more dire than it appears.
Hoshina finds himself at a huge disadvantage. Red's transformation also resonates with Kafka, who senses something is wrong and starts running towards Hoshina and Red's battle. Red tries to crush Hoshina, but he dodges and runs along Red's arm, slashing as many times as he can. Despite his efforts, Hoshina's blades can't cut all the way through due to the size difference, a situation he dreads when fighting massive kaiju. He relies on his speed to avoid hits and strike at Red's core when possible. However, he suddenly feels a sharp pain from overexertion. It has been 10 minutes since he started using maximum output, and Okanogi urges him to stop before he damages his body further. In the heat of battle, Hoshina can't afford to hold back. He knows he can only last another minute at most and tries to make the most of it, using a nearby building to sneak up behind Red. As Hoshina leaps to attack, he's shocked to see eyes on the back of Red's head. Red clotheslines him out of the sky, sending him flying across the city. The hit drains Hoshina's strength, disengaging his max output and triggering a flashback to his youth. His father once praised him as a blade genius, noting he would have been renowned centuries ago, but the age of the sword has passed. In the present, Okanogi frantically checks on Hoshina, who reassures her he's alive, thanks to his maxed out shields, though just barely. Exhausted and out of ideas, Hoshina asks for a status update. Okanogi reports that civilians are nearly evacuated and wyverns are being defeated. Encouraged, Hoshina resolves to keep fighting despite Okanogi's protests. He leaps to slash Red, but the cut heals instantly. Confident that Hoshina can't defeat him, Red sends an exploding wyvern, causing another flashback for Hoshina. His father had urged him to abandon his dream of joining the defense force, deeming sword skills useless against kaiju. Yet, Mina had a different view. When Hoshina met Mina, she asked him to join her force, recognizing his unique skills. She needed him to clear paths for her shots. With Mina leaving him in charge of the base, Hoshina vows to protect it at any cost. Hoshina attacks Red relentlessly, but is caught and nearly crushed. Kafka, seeing this, rushes to help, ready to transform. Just before he does, Mina's voice over the comms brings Hoshina relief. Knowing victory is near, he tells Red it's over just as Mina's railgun blast destroys Red's arm. Positioned on a nearby roof, Mina fires again, destroying Red's other arm before avoiding a counterattack. Red regenerates quickly, so Okanogi informs Mina that the core is likely around its back. Mina prepares to take aim again. Hoshina, still determined, pushes his damaged body to ensure Mina gets a clear shot. He activates his suit to 63% power to slash Red's legs and thighs, hoping to slow him down. Okanogi warns that going beyond maximum output is risky, but Hoshina, aware of the consequences, charges ahead. Despite his efforts, Red heals instantly, and Hoshina's attacks fail to immobilize him. Just then, Kikoru jumps in with her axe. Despite her incredible strength, she barely scratches Red's exoskeleton. However, her presence gives Hoshina an idea. He asks Kikoru to follow his lead, attacking the wounds he creates. The attack seems effective, and Red screams in pain, falling to his knees. Kikoru, exhausted, reaches her limit and passes out. Hoshina realizes she's out of the fight, but reassures himself that they've bought enough time for Mina. Mina fires a powerful blast that blows out Red's back, exposing his core. Mina prepares to finish Red off, but Akinogi warns she has only one bullet left and needs a perfect shot. The defense force provides cover fire, allowing Mina to focus. The combined effort distracts Red, giving Mina the perfect shot. She fires, destroying Red's core and sending chunks of his body flying. The battle seems over, and everyone celebrates their victory. Kafka is moved by the team's effort and determination, feeling more motivated to become strong enough to fight alongside Mina. Meanwhile, Hoshina tells Kikoru that he and Mina will handle the remaining wyverns, but Mina insists Hoshina rest. Mina, close to her limit, is also advised by squad commanders to leave the cleanup to them. As plans are made, Mina's tiger senses something off. They see a terrifying sight in the sky, a giant mass of wyverns turned into a bomb. The more wyverns that join, the more powerful the bomb becomes, with the potential impact of a nuclear explosion. Some officers start shooting, but it's too risky. Mina orders an evacuation, but there's no time given the bomb's blast radius. Hoshina hears the barely conscious head of Red mockingly declare that it's a draw. Despite his impending death from his destroyed core, Red is confident he'll take them all with him. Mina, out of bullets, is unsure what to do. Suddenly, she notices Kafka sprint past her. Hoshina, believing Kafka to be too weak to help, tries to stop him as well. However, Kafka's unexpected speed and agility shock Hoshina, given his limited suit power. As Kafka runs, he begins to transform. When fully turned, everyone is stunned. Akinogi receives readings of a new kaiju with a fortitude of 9-8, confirming the presence of kaiju number 8. Hoshina, who had always sensed something unusual about Kafka, but liked him too much to consider the possibility, is shocked. Kafka internally apologizes to Hoshina for deceiving him and betraying his expectations. He apologizes to Kikoru for breaking his promise to keep his secret and to Ikawa for taking such a risk. But he knows he has no other choice if he wants to save everyone. They all fought valiantly, and he can't put his safety above theirs. Kafka then activates his newly discovered booster jets and flies straight at the kaiju nuke, punching it with enough force to send it into orbit. As he falls back to the ground, Mina orders everyone to set their shields to maximum power. The explosion, though devastating, is greatly reduced by Kafka's actions. He uses his energy to shield the officers. Once the situation calms down, Kafka accepts the consequences of his revealed secret. In the next moment, Mina holds him at gunpoint, declaring she is taking him into custody. As the news about Kaiju number 8 being a member of the defense forces reached the top brass in no time, prompting an urgent high-level meeting. KG, the deputy director, was deeply concerned, viewing this as a matter that required immediate attention. Juo, the chief of the Eastern Command, suggested keeping the news from the media for now, citing rumors about some countries experimenting with kaiju tissue transplants in humans. But KG believed the best course of action was to dispose of the kaiju and weaponize it. But the lead scientist had a different idea: use the kaiju as a living weapon. Esau, the fierce director general of the defense forces and Kikoru's father, made the final decision. We'll bring the kaiju to headquarters first and then decide. Meanwhile, Kafka Hibino, now known as Kaiju number 8, was tightly restrained at his base, monitored by a team of scientists led by KG. Unsure how long he had been restrained, Kafka was consumed by worry about his fate. He recalled Kikoru's past conversation about him being disposed of and used to create special weapons. It was a bitter pill to swallow, especially when he had been so close to being with Mina. Mina Hoshina, accompanied by several officers, arrived to transport Kafka to headquarters. Kafka tried to speak to her, but she ignored him, and even Hoshina told him to remain silent. Freed from his restraints, Kafka was quietly escorted out. As they exited the building, all the base officers, including his friends, were ready and armed, watching him leave. Kafka avoided eye contact with Ikawa, feeling guilty for blowing his cover. However, Ikawa stepped forward, declaring his trust in Kafka's safe return, leaving Kafka speechless as the trailer doors closed. Inside the trailer, Mina revealed there were no cameras and began discussing how shocked she had been when Kafka turned into a kaiju. She planned to compile testimony and footage to help his case, aiming to prove he was human at heart to save him. She listed his contributions as an officer, and Kafka listened silently, overwhelmed by her support. Mina assured him that no one in their unit considered him an enemy. Overcome with emotion, Kafka asked if he could still stand by her side. Mina promised she would always wait for him, causing Kafka to burst into tears. As the convoy departed, Hoshina commanded everyone to salute it. Keiji was shocked but accepted Hoshina's explanation. Kafka was then taken to a tightly guarded underwater room at the maritime base. Several days later, the Defense Force members were silent and glum in the training area. Furuhashi tried to lighten the mood with jokes, but they fell flat. The girl Kafka had rescued spoke about his heroism and humor, while Aoi noted that the decision about Kafka would be made by headquarters. The tension was palpable as they worried about worldwide panic if Kafka's condition was revealed. Meanwhile, Mina instructed Akinogi to compile a document on Kafka to aid his case. Hoshina, usually mischievous, was distant, hoping for Kafka's return. Kikoru nervously approached her father, Esau, in his office, asking him not to dispose of Kafka. Esau dismissed her, showing an X-ray of Kafka's chest with a kaiju core instead of a heart, declaring Kafka not human. Despite her shock, Kikoru insisted on believing in Kafka. Kafka remained in high-security prison, receiving visits from scientists. Dejected, he thought about his friends and his determination to return. Back at the base, the new officers received harsh news about their temporary transfer due to the recent kaiju attack. Mina assured them the plan had been in the works for a while, but Furuhashi and others suspected it was related to Kafka. Surprisingly, Ikawa agreed to the transfer, wanting to help Kafka. Meanwhile, Aoi contacted a former commander to save Kafka, revealing his determination to keep their unit together. Kafka realized he must prove his humanity to secure his freedom. Director Esau visited Kafka, ordering him to be freed from his bindings. Esau challenged Kafka, believing him to be a kaiju. Kafka stands up and declares that he is not a kaiju. Esau orders his men to equip him with 2 mechanical arms made from the parts of Kaiju number 2. Esau then engages in battle with Kafka, who opts to partially transform into a kaiju during the fight. As the battle rages on, Keiji shares some intel with Kikoru about Kaiju number 2, revealing that the creature was once prideful, but was ultimately subdued and its body parts were repurposed into weapons. Keiji explains that Esau is the only one capable of wielding these particular weapons. Just as Esau is about to deliver the final blow, Kafka fully transforms and manages to block the attack. However, Kafka, Kikoru, and the others notice that something is wrong with Kafka. Kafka soon realizes that he has lost control of his body. Trapped within the kaiju mind, he panicked, realizing he might be proven a real kaiju. The parasite kaiju appeared, urging him to kill humans. In a desperate attempt, Kafka tried to stop, but his transformation continued, leaving Kikoru to scream in despair, reminding him of his humanity. Ikawa is working out intensely, determined to get stronger. Beside him, Iharu comments on his excessive exercise and asks what's on his mind, especially since he recently agreed to transfer to another unit. Ikawa explains that he wants to become stronger quickly so that next time, he can protect Kafka instead of Kafka always protecting him. Iharu doubts Kafka will ever return, but Ikawa insists he believes Kafka will, and he doesn't want to be weak when that happens. Ikawa's speech inspires Iharu, who starts pedaling away on the stationary bike. Their platoon leaders arrive at the gym and inform them that today is the day the brass will decide Kafka's fate. They all wrote letters asking for mercy for Kafka and are hopeful, especially since Mina was summoned to HQ. At HQ, Mina is ordered to wait while the Director General examines Kaiju number 8 as she prepares to sit down. A voice warns her not to since she is only an observer, not a participant. Meanwhile, Kafka's kaiju form continues to rampage. General Esau evades Kafka's attacks, with Kafka pursuing him relentlessly. From the viewing deck, Kikoru tries to shout that Kafka is still human. But Kafka's kaiju form launches a powerful punch at the general, who dodges easily and notes that Kafka is now fighting like an animal. The general prepares himself, but Kafka doesn't stop his punch's momentum. Instead, he rotates his body 360 degrees, destroying his torso but enabling another strike. The general, shocked, manages to block the punch and is impressed by the tactic, recognizing the kaiju's ability to regenerate. He realizes he can't use human logic in this fight or he will die. Inside his body, Kafka's consciousness tries to stop himself, but his kaiju form unleashes a barrage of attacks at the general. Esau survives thanks to his gauntlet shield and retaliates, blowing Kafka into the wall. When the dust settles, Esau notices Kafka's core is missing. Kafka had used his old body as bait, allowing him to position himself for another attack. Their fists meet, creating a shockwave that shakes the shelter, destroying a wall designed to withstand a Fortitude 10 attack. The other generals expected the base to be damaged with two numbered kaiju fighting. Kikoru recalls her conversation with her father and wonders if the general is indeed giving Kafka a chance. Back in the 3rd Division, Esau and Kagari are on the rooftop, looking over their destroyed base. Kagari confesses he became a defense force officer to save lives, but was instead saved by Kafka. Esau agrees and contemplates his next move, staring at his dad's phone number. At HQ, Kafka and the general's duel continues. Esau uses long-range energy punches, but Kafka recovers and catches him off guard, taking a chunk out of his side. The other generals worry as Kafka's kaiju form evolves, now glowing with red energy. Inside kaiju number 8, Kafka tries to stop his body, but the general's attacks have no effect. Esau summons kaiju number 2's breath attack, directing it at Kafka, who retaliates with an energy breath, blasting Esau back. Kaiju number 8 catches Esau and slams him into the wall. Esau coughs up blood, while Kafka realizes he might kill the general if this continues. Kikoru, watching with tears, remembers her conversations with Kafka and realizes she might need to kill him. She shouts at him not to give up. Kafka's consciousness breaks free, but the kaiju inside him chomps down on him. In the real world, Esau loses hope as kaiju number 8 prepares to kill him. Kafka, in a dreamlike state, recalls Mina waiting for him. He awakens just as kaiju number 8 punches himself in the chest, disintegrating the kaiju form. Kafka tells the general he is Kafka Hibino, not kaiju number 8, then faints. A sword is held against his neck, but General Esau orders Narumi, the 1st Division's captain, to stand down. Narumi asks if Esau was trying to kill himself by not asking for backup and what his decision is regarding Kafka. After testing Kafka, Director Esau holds a meeting with Japan's Defense Force higher-ups. They ask for Captain Mina Ishiro's testimony since she was Kafka's captain and knew him before he joined the Defense Force. Mina admits her acquaintance but promises no special treatment. The leaders suspect Mina influenced Kafka's acceptance into the Defense Force. Despite their suspicion, Mina testifies to Kafka's dedication and heroism, recounting his crucial role in several operations. The officers dismiss her as biased, but Director Esau thanks her and proceeds with Kafka's disposal. Kafka, submerged in a healing pod, recalls his feelings of incompetence and desire for revenge. He gains consciousness in a hospital bed, finding the director beside him. Kafka expresses relief that the director is unharmed, assuming he is deemed human. The director clarifies that Kafka is a kaiju, evidenced by his survival after punching himself in the heart. Despite opposition, the director decided to use Kafka's powers against kaiju monsters. Kafka promises to prove his worth to the Defense Force. Mina informs Kikoru that Kafka will live, but Kikoru knows the danger if he loses control again. Haruichi, Ikawa, Furuhashi, and Kafka's other comrades also receive the news and are relieved that their companion will return to the team. Hoshina believes the hard part is just beginning, as news of a kaiju in the defense force will soon go public. He hopes Kafka can prove his usefulness before that happens. Exhausted, Kafka falls asleep while talking to the director, thinking of Mina and promising to be by her side soon. Meanwhile, the main villain, Kaiju number 9, is training his intellect and communicating with an undisclosed accomplice, planning to reclaim the kaiju power that has fallen into human hands. The end. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for upcoming animes. Cheers.